I want to be a baller, shot caller.
What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast. I'm KBTX senior Texas A&M sportswriter Travis Brown alongside Chief Meteorologist Max Crawford. And we have a very special guest today. That is the man, the myth, the legend, Rusty Surette. Thank you.
He's putting the extra in Aggie Gameday Extra today. Aren't you, Rusty?
How did I end up here on the sports podcast?
I don't know.
The least sports guy.
This is why you ended up on the sports podcast.
You
and it's
also
just
took my seat.
You did take it,
and I don't like it.
He was not happy.
I've got a problem with you, bud.
This is why you ended up on the sports podcast, because the other couple weeks ago, when the new Long John Silver's opened, and I decided that I wanted to go get me some fish and chicken, I pulled up to the drive-thru, and I was wearing my nice KBTX polo, and I went to get my food from the lady, and she said, "Now you need to tell Rusty he needs to come and eat here." And literally, once you start working at KBTX, everyone's like, "Well, what's Rusty like?" Well, you know,
lamest guy
and we went through
Rusty?
the parade. Yeah, we went through the Brian Christmas parade, and you are a local celebrity. So we just need to raise the clout of this podcast is really what we're trying to do here.
Trying to get better
You're going to raise
numbers.
the clout, or you're going to lose some viewers one way or the other. But
So anyway, I've worked here about as long as you have, about 2 years shorter, and I don't know the whole backstory of Rusty. I just know the myth and the legend. I don't know the man. So that's what we're going to try to do here, is just pull back the curtain on the man a little bit, and how you became Brazos Valley's most recognizable.
If I may, could we even go back a step farther than that, Rusty? Because I think that this is super interesting. Here I am making it about me. How many previous TV markets have you been in?
this is my 6th.
Yeah.
So I started off in my hometown, Beaumont, Texas, and went to Tyler, Texas, went to Raleigh, North Carolina, back to Beaumont, Las Vegas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then Oklahoma City. And then I came here with Max Crawford in 2015. We started together here at KBTX.
That we did. I think you started 2 weeks before me. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
We came here together, so we've been here about the same time.
What 2015? What time of year 2015?
It was.
I came in May of 2015.
Yeah, so I got here in June.
So y'all were exactly a year before me when I got here at the Eagle.
Yeah.
Lovely.
But to reiterate the question that you had, Travis, I think this is also very interesting, is because when you first got here, obviously you weren't a household name yet. You were well on your way. But there is a point when Rusty Surette became a household name.
I think there were 2 points.
Yeah.
And for our longtime viewers, they'll remember this. One was the series of investigations we did on a former superintendent in the area. Mm-hmm. And that it wasn't all roses at the beginning. In fact, there were some leadership here at the TV station who didn't like my style of reporting, but I had to convince them that there was something here to look into. And it was that, and I don't know if you remember this or if you were here way back, I think it was 2016, there was a all-day, all-night police standoff at the old Rockies on Texas Avenue Southwest Parkway. And that was one of the first events in the area where we were online all day, social media, really doing a play-by-play, hourly update. And there's one other that I'll throw in there that I think really put me into a household name category. It was the Gabriel Hall murder trial that I live blogged. And live blogging during a murder trial really wasn't something we had seen here in our area. So there were, when I got here in 2015, you're right, nobody knew who I was. 2016, 2017, there were just a series of events that were big enough that my face was attached to, that I kind of became that, I gained some notoriety, for better or worse, and just I kept kept doing it. And, with any other TV market, the longer you're here, the more people know you and trust you. And that's my story.
Yeah.
So going back further, what got you into journalism, especially broadcast journalism? Where did the itch to kind of be a reporter and kind of do journalism the way that you do it start?
A couple of things. I grew up at a time where watching the evening news, that was a family thing. The kids were to be quiet. Everybody sat in front of the TV. We ate dinner with the news on. We went to bed with the news on. And my grandfather, who just was a news fanatic, was in my eyes the smartest guy in the world. And he would always say, if you watch the news, if you're informed, you'll be educated, you'll do well in this world. So it was a little bit of that. There was also a desire to be a police officer. When I was growing up, I really wanted to get into law enforcement. I took criminal justice classes in high school, and for me, listening to a police scanner, jumping on my bicycle when I was 15, going to crime scenes and recording those, selling those videos to the TV station. We're talking back when we were using VHS camcorders.
When you bring it into the station? And
I literally would go. We had a little NBC station in Port Arthur, Texas, that I would go and ride my bike up to because they weren't too far away. And I would knock on the newsroom door and I would say, here, this is before cell phones, you could text, and I'd say, hey, I have a fire that I shot from overnight. Here's this video. And they would pay me like $50 for this. Now, back in 1995, for a 15-year-old, $50 a video when I'm out shooting 5-6 videos a weekend, I was making money. The problem is they got smart and hired me when I was 16 to make $4.25 an hour.
I was going to say, then you weren't making
minimum wage, baby.
I don't know that you were making $50 a video by that point.
No, they said, bring this guy on part time. So I was staff at age 16 at what was KJAC TV in Port Arthur, Texas at the time, rolling videotapes. So I went to high school. After class, I'd go to the TV station. I'd be there till 11 at night, and then I started off kind of as a videotape editor. But high school football, shooting high school football, was really my introduction into getting out into the field, using the camcorders. Back then, it was 3/4 inch tape decks that we were using. Well, I've got a bad shoulder, but the excitement of doing live television at a football game, so there was the rush and the deadlines and the yelling and operating a live truck for the first time. It was at a high school football game, being on the road, traveling to towns and meeting people that you wouldn't normally go to. I joke a lot about not being a sports guy, and I have no idea why you wanted me to come to this, but I will credit helping our sports department at that age with kind of learning the ropes of television broadcast news. And when I was, I think, 17 or 18, I'll never forget this, and he knows this story. The sports director at the time, a guy named Greg Picasso, and they sent Greg and I to a Dallas Cowboys football training camp to go cover for a week. And he was excited to go. I think I was kind of like last option. Nobody else was available. So they were like, oh, send Rusty, the kid with the camera. He'll fill in. And the disappointment on Greg's face when he learned I was going with him, I'll never forget. And I've teased him about that to this day. Because I'm going there. And one of the things that I remember is, I didn't know where to stand. I didn't know what to expect to do. And apparently I was at the wrong place on the field. And God's honest truth on my grandmother's grave, Troy Aikman ended up yelling at me to move because I was in.
All right, get all the way.
And I was like, what did I do? And I go over to Greg. I'm like, who's that? Why is he yelling at me? True story.
Probably the most recognizable person in the sport at the time. I had no idea what I was doing.
No idea what I was doing. But I learned so much when you cover sports. And I'm gonna kind of push this back onto you guys. we get so many applicants in the news industry of young men and women who come in and they go, oh, I want to be in news, but I want to do sports. And I don't think you guys get enough credit in the number of hours that you work, the deadlines that you're up against. It's not just going to the games and reporting highlights. You're having to dig for stories and shared human feature events. And now you're in such an environment of not just competing against a newspaper and a radio station like I was back when I started in TV, but you're competing against social media, bloggers, TexAgs, and all these other outlets that are trying to get the same content that you're getting, but you're trying to be first and accurate and everything else. You have so much more competition than we ever did back in the day.
Yeah, it's interesting because, well, first off, with my story, I think the first thing that got me into realizing that like breaking news was fun, I got that adrenaline rush of breaking news, was actually watching severe weather coverage up in North Texas. You know, there's always going to be a tornado or two that busts through, and I was just glued to severe weather coverage on TV. Now, and so like maybe a backup plan would have been meteorology, but I'm not nearly as good as ad-libbing as Max and all the staff over there is. So there's that weird kind of crossover between all of it. But yeah, I mean, modern sports coverage, I tell any journalism students that want to get into sports, say, you know, like, write some sports for your paper, your school paper, your school TV station, but like do a semester on the crime beat, because you're going to cover crime. Yeah. Do a semester on a politics beat, because especially now in college sports, you're going to cover politics.
Absolutely.
Like, you kind of have to be deep in your sports knowledge, but you have to be more than surface level across all kinds of different spectrums. And that's why, like, when I introduce myself or my wife introduced me to her coworkers or something, I always say I'm a journalist, because that's what I want to be known as. And then I just happen to cover sports as my primary beat. But yeah, it's fun and it's exhilarating to be able to go out and cover a game day on Saturday. But then also, if like there's a fire in town and we look around, there's no one in the newsroom, I'll be like, because that's kind of what we all kind of got.
Everybody, it's all hands on deck, and I'm so grateful for that. Being asked by the sports department in the TV station I started off, being asked, hey, can you come shoot a football game or go to a pep rally or do this or do that, and after that. They kept asking me to shoot more things, and it just kind of snowballed into this career. I kind of left the law enforcement dream behind, but that really helped me that guided my path into what I am today.
In a which anybody in Texas will tell you their town is the most into high school football, but Southeast Texas.
Yeah, baby. Port Neches Groves,
PNG,
yeah.
Like they know how to do a Friday night.
It was crazy, and to be a member of the media while you're a senior in high school, and one of the most just insane high school football.
Get to wear a news hat and have the camera on your shoulder.
I got that. I got a taste of it, and I just stayed with it, and I love that. What I'm curious, and I know y'all are here to talk to me, but have you ever talked about your transition from newspaper to TV on the podcast? Because I want to know about that.
Not really.
Why?
Because I don't know. Because I'm the one who knows who runs this. No, it's been interesting. Like, I think the knock is well, in these communities, you know, TV reporters, news reporters, especially on the sports side, they're friends. There's this weird dynamic between people who work on this, because you're kind of coworkers, but you don't work for the same company.
Right.
But you're also in competition with each other. It's kind of like maybe playing golf. You know, like where you want to do good for yourself, but you're kind of rooting for everybody else as long as they don't beat you, kind of thing. But I think that there's a funny rivalry between like your traditional print and TV journalists, because I think print people think, well, we really report. We go in deep and get the deep facts, and TV, you know, they're shallow level reporting. It's just the stereotype and kind of the rivalry. And as I got here, I realized how much goes into putting on a newscast that that it's a real talent, and it's a credit to you and some of the real veteran news reporters that when you get depth in your TV coverage, it's because you did really extensive reporting while also putting in hours and hours to like just code in the system and cut B-roll and all these other little tasks that go into like putting together a 2-minute package. And so I think my eyes have been opened into the heavy lifting that goes behind just getting a TV show on the air. So that's been a really interesting, cool transition that I have. Like, I had tons of respect for TV reporters before, but like exponentially more respect. But yeah, it was just a great opportunity to work for a company here, a news outlet that has so much community reach, to be able to kind of flex and train new journalistic muscles. I've always liked the multimedia side of things, doing video and things like that, and to be able to kind of, it was always at print places, usually it was always like get your story in, and if you have time to cut a video or do something for social or do a podcast, you can do that, but you got to get your copy in. And now I can kind of like plan my schedule to where maybe one day I'm doing video stuff, I'm doing a podcast, one day I'm writing, and I can kind of incorporate all those things and flex it. But yeah, and it's just really cool to be in a real newsroom environment.
Yeah.
I think a lot of print, a lot of newspaper, and don't get me wrong, I could be at KBTX for 20 years and I'll always still think of myself as a newspaper man. But so much with how newspaper flow goes, like a lot of times it's working at home. It's working away. There's a lot of people who are working at home or away or stuff like so. You don't get that old school, Watergate feeling newsroom vibe with the phones ringing and people running around and stuff like that. And there's a little bit more to that here. So I really, that's one of the pieces of it that I like the most, is that I always loved the feel of the newsroom, and there's a good newsroom feel here.
Well, you bring up one thing when you talk about the amount of work that goes into putting on a broadcast, and it's the same thing for news anchors and reporters. We don't just walk in and read a teleprompter. There's hours of preparation that goes into all of that. And now reporters and anchors in a television newsroom, and I'm not talking about just here in Bryan. You can be in a Dallas newsroom, a Houston newsroom, an Austin newsroom, and you have reporters, they call them MMJs now, multimedia journalists. And there's the number of people who are surprised when I walk up to a scene somewhere holding the camera. They go, "Oh, you don't have a cameraman? You don't have an audio guy?" No, but this is it, baby. This is everyone is doing the videoing, the writing, the script, the editing. We do it all. We put the web stories all together. So, Max is in the weather department also. It's not just coming in and walking in front of the green screen. Max is here at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, put together stuff at 6 p.m., and it's taken all afternoon to do that. There's a lot of preparation.
And when there's severe weather, you could be up here all night.
Yeah, totally, which is what I tell people who are like, I really want to do sports. I'm like, my hours stink sometimes, but
sports is...
You've got scheduled stink hours. Like, people have said to me before, like, do you think your true calling is sports? Like, would you like to, and like in this capacity? Sure, totally, but I don't want to be at a sports game every single Saturday night, but because like I live and breathe sports, just not in that way. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, especially starting. But I also think if you're talking about like a Venn diagram, and I think this is why sports, weather, and news have just always worked in a local TV cast, and I think even more so now, you could argue that Venn diagram is almost a circle as far as like the knowledge that you need to have in order to be a well-rounded sports reporter or journalist, meteorologist, or a news anchor and reporter. Is you've got to know a little bit of everything. You've got to kind of be a jack of all trades, whether it's camera work or knowing about emergency management and how that fits in with flood infrastructure, and all of a sudden you're talking about municipal governments and how that works with NIL contracts and how people can, like it all just kind of gets interwoven so quickly that I think that's why it all kind of works together Still, like after all this, like it just makes sense. The local news, the weather, and the sports, and how it can all tie in very quickly.
And I tell young journalists all the time, like if you're, even if you're going to be a sports writer or a meteorologist or something, it pays. And every night, I finish the night by reading the Washington Post, the New York Times, AP, plus The Athletic, plus ESPN, just kind of the front page to get a good idea. Because there's been plenty of times I've read something in politics in the Washington Post that I can tie back to a sports story that's localized.
And the skill of writing, I think, is more valuable than ever in an era where a lot of people can put something into a what have you. I'm not even going to say it because it's a bad word in my house. The thing that writes stuff for you. Hey, write me this. Hey, tell me this. In this day and age, original writing, I think, is just as important as ever, whether it's print or it's digital media. The ability to write.
It's a skill.
And creatively write and uniquely write. Whether it's from a technical or creative side or just the facts journalism and stuff, it's a skill that I hope is not vanishing, but it seems like has a real potential too.
Yeah, original writing.
Yeah. Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William Joe Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
I've got a question for you.
Oh, well, I got one for you.
Okay.
You just asked one for me.
Nobody has any questions for me.
Not to be the one asking questions.
Right? I know, right?
I'll just let y'all.
So, when you talked about growing up and watching TV and that's the thing, who were your newscasters that you were like, that's we ask sports athletes all the time, who's your comps? Who's the guys you looked up to? Who are your newscaster comps or heroes?
Everybody in the Houston market, because we could get some of the Houston TV stations in Beaumont, Port Arthur, and there were a couple of people in Beaumont, Port Arthur that I looked up to as news anchors. But when I got to be in front of a television set watching the Houston newscast, Dave Ward, Marvin Zindler, Ron Stone, the legends of that market. Those were who you looked up to, and you go, man, I want to work my way up to those places. And and there was up till a decade or so ago that I still wanted to work my way up into the Houston market. That was part of the plan coming to Bryan College Station in 2015 with Max. I had an agent at the time, and I said, okay, get me back to Texas. I was in Oklahoma City. Get me back to Texas. What about Bryan College Station? I said, I don't know much about it, but it's close to Houston. So it's a great stepping stone to Houston. That was 10 years ago. There's something about, and I'm sure it's with the aging and maturity and everything else, that you get into a place, and it doesn't matter that it's a big city, big market. I'm not working for one of those big network television stations, but I enjoy being in a place where what we do here at KBTX is seen by so many eyeballs. It has such an impact on the community, and it is a TV station that thrives in giving back to the community. And you don't find that at all TV stations. I've worked again at 6-7 different TV stations, and this has been probably one of the places that has been most integrated into the community in terms of doing fundraisers and nonprofits and the food drive that we do, the St. Jude Dream Home. Max is on the United Way board. He's the chairman. Carla is the chairwoman of the Chamber of Commerce. You just don't see that kind of community involvement with every TV station that's out there. And I think that's what, as we go through this weird media identity crisis that the whole broadcast industry is going through right now. What are we? And people going to streaming and digital and everything. We're all trying to find where we all fit into the puzzle. But I think no matter where we land, be it on air or podcasting or streaming or digital or social media, I think KBTX is always going to have a seat at the table in the homes of people who consume news, because we aren't just seen as a TV station. I think KBTX is seen as a part of the community. You don't think of Bryan College Station without thinking of A&M. You don't think of this area without thinking of some of the other great things that we have here, the people that we have here. But this is just part of Aggie land, and I'm honored to be a part of that. And you guys start off the podcast and, but people know you and everything else, and it's great, and I love that. But it's such an honor, and I don't ever take any of that for granted. And it's been cool to be part of all of this, no matter where we land in the TV news industry world.
Yeah.
As we try to figure all that out.
I think I could add on to that, but it would just be redundant. Like this is home, and we love it here.
So where are you from?
I'm from Dallas.
Okay.
Not too far south from where Max grew up.
Travis is one of those people to be like, no, I'm actually from Dallas. You say you're from Dallas.
I am from Dallas.
Well, I'm from Dallas.
In Dallas. I'm not from Flower Mound or any of those other cities or anything like that. No,
That's just when I tell people Flower Mound, Texas, if they're not from DFW, they're like, what? That's a place?
Just own it. Just put it.
Flomo.
Flomo, man.
Flomo, baby.
Battle for the. What was the?
It's the Mound Showdown.
The Mound Showdown.
The Mound Showdown.
The Mound Showdown.
Yeah,
What was your first journalism job?
My first journalism job?
Mm-hmm.
For technically with the TCU Daily Skiff, was the sports editor, but got out of school, did 3 months as the unpaid internship media relations coordinator for the Grand Prairie Airhogs independent baseball team, where I wrote press releases and game notes. Also went down and pulled tarp if it was raining, and they had me bring. I never actually had to do it, but they had me bring my catcher's gear up in case I needed to catch a bullpen if one of their catchers quit. So that was fun, but that lasted 3 years, and then 3 months, and then I was.
It felt like 3 years.
And then I worked for ESPN Dallas for 2 years.
Doing what?
Covering high school sports.
Right.
So I had a big, I joke with some of the younger reporters in here because they gave me a big Sony camcorder that, you're going to laugh at this, but ran HDV tape.
Yeah.
So you had to plug that into the computer, and as much as you shot, you had to roll, and you didn't get to put a SD card into the thing. But yeah, did that. Got to go up to Bristol once and see all the ESPN glory up there. And
you got to cover Kenny Trill in high school football, did you not?
Kenny Trill. I got to cover Jonathan Gray.
Yeah. Big time running back.
The state rushing records.
Was he Duncanville?
Alito.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. Alito. It's always Alito.
Mm-hmm. Covered a lot of South Lake Carroll. I think in that little span that I was doing high school, I don't think Port Neches Groves made it to state.
That must have been one of the only times then.
It was a little span of like 5 years. But
right.
I mean, they're on the bounce back right now for sure. Then Fort Worth Star Telegram covered Dallas Stars and TCU, and then came down here for the Eagle and covered A&M.
And then you came here. You do live reports for us occasionally. Do you get nervous?
So that's the funny story about that is my first day on the job was SEC Media Days last year, so in Dallas. And so I was up there, and we kind of expedited the process for me to be able to get up there to start it. And Josh, our news director, said, hey, just go up there and write. We'll figure out the TV stuff when you get back. Just go write, put stuff on the website. I learned how to do that on our system and everything. Well, the first day I get a text or something that says, hey, you're going to do a live talkback at 4. And I said, what's a talkback? And they said, just show up at the camera and we'll tell you. And so, no, I don't. I was a little nervous then, but I don't get super nervous because I've done stuff in front of cameras in the past. And it's kind of like, and I've done a lot of like radio show hits. And so especially those talkbacks, just answering questions, it's a lot like doing a radio hit or something like that where you just talk about what you know. I do need to get better at my just overall presentation and
we all
taking
do.
the ums out.
Sure.
I am always impressed, and I don't think enough people know. We might have talked about this, like with weather, how y'all don't have stuff in the prompter. You're just going off the top of the dome, and that boggles my mind.
Start talking
because I couldn't so eloquently present facts like that. You have witnessed it on the other side of the desk. I am not so eloquent in my presentation, but yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but you get used to it, and you kind of just, as long as you don't think about thousands of people watching you on the other side. You just kind of think about, Rusty's going to laugh at me on the other side of the camera and say something dumb.
You just look at the red light and go.
And you're fine.
So going back to having so many young people who are interested in broadcasting say they want to do sports, what is a good day for a sports reporter? What's a bad day for you as well?
I'm going to ask the same question back to you after this, and we'll all answer this question because I think it's fascinating. You start actually with weather.
What's a good day?
When it's 72 and sunny.
I was going to say it differs based on the time of year, based on the season, what has been happening, what is going to happen, because I think a lot of people will just kind of assume like, oh, you must love July and August because you just get to go up there and be like, yep, it's still hot, it's still sunny, nothing's going to happen. To me, after a big stretch of really active weather, yeah, that's fun for a few days. It's nice to be able to sit down and take a breather and stuff like that. But in this content creation world that we're in right now, it's almost more stressful than an active time. And so like, it's nice to get and take that breather and things like that. But if you get into a rut where, you're just, it's the high is 101, maybe 102 the next day, 101 back to 102, that can get old really quickly.
Yeah, because you're having to think, how do I tell this same thing over and over and over?
And then you have to start talking about drought and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess a really good day would be like in April after severe weather rolled through, but fortunately there wasn't a lot of property damage or something like that. And the next day you get to talk about it being sunny and 75.
Nice.
That's a good day. A bad day to me is anytime there's severe weather. Obviously, there's a conflicting level of, I suppose, excitement in covering severe weather events and breaking weather and stuff like that.
It's like being a punter sometimes. Like, you don't want your team to be bad.
Sure, but
you
want
to get on the field.
You're like, this is my time to do this. Yeah, I think, that's, Travis, that is pretty good. But yeah, so I think that is a bad day still for me. Like, once I became a property owner, and then even more when I became a dad, it's like, I will never root for severe weather. And like you mentioned a little bit earlier, oftentimes it happens at hours of the day that are not convenient, and weather doesn't take weekends or holidays and stuff like that. So yeah, I would call any day with severe weather as a quote unquote bad day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always were also taught like there's no such thing as bad weather or good weather. There is just the weather and how you tell the story beyond that. But I kind of break the rules a little bit with that, and I say I think I can call this bad weather, et cetera. So
I think for sports that's a tough one because it is similar. Like, you don't want something. Well, it's changed as I've gotten older. I think when you're young, the best days are like being at the game and just the excitement of, oh my gosh, I get to be here for free and
I think that's what everybody who thinks of a sports reporter's job, that's all they think about. Oh, you get to go to the games for free, and that's the job.
Right.
There's so much more to it.
Right, yeah. I think as I've gotten older, the best days, the best stories usually happen away from the games. Like, they're conversations that you have with parents of players, or you get to dig into some really good data. Probably the best days for me, with how weird and nerdy I am, or when you put in the open records request that you think is going to get denied, and then you get the little email and it pops up and says, no, they gave you the information.
It's like, here it is.
And you know that you're probably the only person who thought to put that open records request in. That's probably the best days. But the worst days, I think you kind of got into it a little bit earlier with there's so many people who on social media or whatever who get in and cover sports. They talk to athletes, they do stuff, and they maybe don't necessarily do it in an ethical way, or there's kind of some unwritten rules on how you cover a team, especially at the college level. And you have to kind of play by the rules, but other people don't. And I think those are the bad days when you or there's situations where you have to write stories to expose something, some kind of wrongdoing that's been happening with a team or a player or a coach, and people don't like that. Fans don't like that, and you get raked over the coals on. For as many times as I think and I know you could go through the same thing too, but I think there's days where you feel like, well, like for as popular as Rusty is, people hate me on the beats, and those are the bad days, which neither one is, and not comparing, but just saying for the sake of the podcast. I think those are the bad days, but I think it's somewhere in the middle, and I think, as you'll probably attest, that like the things that were exciting and cool and good early in your career are very different now later in your career.
It is. I think some of my more challenging days has to revolve around social media and the expectations that followers have of reporting news and breaking news. And I go through this pretty routinely where something starts to go viral. And there was a good example here a couple of weeks ago where there was an issue with a young man and a police officer in a town here in the area. And there was video circulating for a good 3-4 days, and my inbox and the tags and everything else, it was just hate. Oh, you're ignoring this. You don't care about this. You used to be somebody, now you're nobody. I mean, I hear it all. But like you said, when you work for a legitimate news organization and you're playing by the rules as a credible journalist, there are things you have to do. There's check boxes. We have to reach out for comment. We have to verify. We have to. I can't just share a viral video and say, here everyone, make up your own mind on what's happening here. There are certain stories that you do have to vet. And that takes time, and giving everyone that's involved an opportunity to respond before you ever hit publish. That is the biggest challenge, I think, in my corner of the newsroom, is doing everything as a journalist the right way with a social media audience that expects immediacy and wants to know everything now. And that's just not how it works sometimes. And
so I'm curious, what is the funniest DM you've ever got that you can share on a family-friendly podcast?
I've had a couple of moms or grandmas who have reached out and said, my daughter is single, my granddaughter is single, would you like to meet? And happily married. So, those are lighthearted things.
I would occasionally get that too before it was obvious that I was married with children. That would happen sometimes too.
You know what? If people want to play matchmaker,
why not? And I watch Rusty on TV all the time. He'd be great with, I know them both. Yeah.
I had a young lady the other day. She emailed me. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I would pay money to meet you. Where can we? I just want to say hi." I said, "Just come by the TV station one day. I mean, just say hi. We're totally fine."
We had a friend at our wedding that geeked out because you were at our wedding, and was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to meet Max Crawford. Can you introduce me to Max Crawford?"
That's wild. Yeah. Honestly, because anybody who knows me is like, you're not missing much, man. Like
that's what
Max
I tell
is
everybody.
Annoying. You don't want to get to know him.
People are getting, I hear it's you're the celebrity and you're this and that. Dude, I am the lamest person that you will ever meet in your life.
Full disclosure, anytime I run into people in public who ask about Rusty, which is all the time, I usually get through that conversation by in some way insulting Rusty. By being like, you don't want to meet him. Rusty's the worst. Rusty is awful. Which I don't actually do that, or I make it very clear that I'm joking if I do.
I think once I do meet people, they realize that I'm just about as average as you can get. It's nothing.
Rusty, I have just to kind of try to tie this back to sports before we wrap this up. And I'm not going to grill you or anything, ask you to tell me the difference between half court and the 50-yard line. You do know that, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were in Oklahoma City for about a decade.
Yes. Go Thunder.
Absolutely. Alex Caruso, the Bald Mamba, ring number 2. He's trying to fill up the whole hand. Anyway, you had some experiences with fan bases of a sort in Oklahoma City. Obviously, OU and OSU. So answer this kind of however you will, but I guess my questions are Norman versus Stillwater and OU fans versus OSU fans. What are your thoughts?
Oh, my God. That's so easy. Love OSU. Love Stillwater, and I think that was one of the draws in coming here to A&M and College Station.
Pandering to his family.
No, I'm being truthful. Stillwater's great. Love that atmosphere, and there's a lot here in Aggie land that kind of resembles Stillwater. The OU fan base. This is going to bite me one day. I know this is going to bite me one
I've
day.
already gotten bitten by the
care.
OU bug because I've kind of inadvertently talked a lot of mess about OU anyway. So
in
it's okay.
all of the cities that I've worked in, I'm always the home. Like, I will cheer for the home team. I worked in so many different markets. So as soon as I came here, I'm like, yeah, A&M, let's go Aggies. I'm here for it. I drink that Kool-Aid. And when I started my job in Oklahoma City, let's go OU, go Sooners. Sooner Boomer, whatever.
Yes.
They are some of the most obnoxious people on this side of the Mississippi River. And I'll leave it at that. They were just...
That's what I wanted.
Every time I went to Norman, just not very welcoming, no warm reception, rude. I've never had a good time in Norman, Oklahoma. Which camera am I on?
That might be the...
Here. I've never had a good time in Norman, Oklahoma. Stillwater? Absolutely. Go Pokes.
That's what I wanted to get out of you.
You're welcome. This is going to
just
cost me a job somewhere down the road.
I am troll you at this point in the podcast, and I've kind of just embraced it at this point because my brother-in-law went to OU, and so my mother and father-in-law are kind of also OU fans as well. They live in Stillwater though, so anytime I go up there, I'm like the only one who's actually rooting for OSU because they're all either OU fans or Aggies. So I like to mess with OU as much as I possibly can, while at the same time, like, kind of maybe slightly rooting for them.
There were a
little
couple
bit.
of weeks ago, I think it was a swimming event, that there were a bunch of charter buses in town, or it was a track event, and at the new hotel down here next to the Hilton, the Drury, there were 2 OU charter buses.
You go, oh, there
and
we
I
go.
drove by and I saw Boomer, Sooner, and I cringed. It was...
I think there's a bunch of A&M fans that would appreciate that. We'll close it out with this because, bringing it back to sports, you being here as long as you have, you've been to some A&M events, some A&M sporting events.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the few that stick out into your mind as some of your favorites or memorable ones that you were a part of?
Oh, easy. The LSU 7 overtime game.
Yeah.
The one big event, it was the Alabama upset. I was there for that game. It was Alabama, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And the entire stadium erupting, the swaying of the stadium and the seats, chills. Like, thinking about it now, chills. The fan base and that atmosphere that happens inside Kyle Field, and this is coming from a non-Aggie, somebody who just came here for the job. One of the best nights of my life was being in Kyle Field during that game and just being part of that. Incredible. Can't replicate that anywhere else.
It was a fun night.
It was fantastic. I mean, Elko just talked about it the other day about recruiting and how well that helped out with recruiting some of the classes.
I think that's all you got to do. Bring them to a game.
That's literally their pitch.
That's how you get it.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, you see this? Cool. You can be part of this. So, well, Rusty, thank you so much. Also, football prediction. What do you think the Aggies are going to do this year?
Why do you want to do this to me? Wrap this up.
There are 12 games total.
For
starters in the regular season.
8-2.
8-2. Okay.
Is that a
with two games canceled.
Two COVID forfeits.
Yeah, we'll go with that. That's great.
Okay.
Well, Rusty, thank you so much for giving us a part of your busy afternoon.
I'm honored to have been here.
This was fun.
cool.
Like I said, I think there's a lot of people who, as we've talked about with us, know your social media, but don't know the guy behind the Twitter or the Facebook account.
Just a lame guy from Texas. That's all.
So I appreciate that, especially in the slow portions of the summer where I'm tired of talking about the upcoming football season. We'll do that later, some other time. Max, you got any last thoughts? Parting words?
I'm not tired. I told you, because you were going to do this just with Rusty, and I told you, no, I want to talk about football a little bit, which we didn't, of course.
No.
I just assume we'll talk about it next week because we're going through all of the SEC schools, which there are flipping 16 of them now, so we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. I'm ready to talk about football. I guess that's my closing thought.
I don't want to talk about so much football so far in advance that when we get to really football time that we've already said everything. So that's usually
we'll say it again.
Okay, we'll say it again.
It's like a forecast where it stays 100 degrees. You say it again.
You're way more well versed in that than I am.
Get in a thesaurus and start saying it a little bit differently.
I don't do words.
Crafting
What are
the
you
narrative
talking
a little
about?
differently.
So anyway, that's all we got for you this week. Be sure to check KBTX.com for all the kinds of coverage leading up to the season. Like you said, we're going through all the A&M schedule this year and previewing some of those teams. Find Max on the forecasts, the
Yep.
KBTX
Rain
every
this
night,
weekend.
and Rusty every night just about on 6 and 5, 6 and 10, something like that. We alternates at times, but
Or 24/7 on social media.
yeah, there you go. And all the time on social media for the three of us. So we'll be back next week. We're getting closer to that football season. So we'll see you then on the Aggie Gameday Extra Podcast. For Max Crawford, the absent Tyler Shaw, Rusty Surette, I'm Travis Brown. We'll see you next week.
Go Pokes and get
Bye.